It's time to get caught in the deer pen. Hey, welcome back to Brain Muffin at the Movies. No, Brain Muffin's beer reviews. And here we do today, and I know for years I've been saying I'm going to do something different, and I have sort of an idea, but just not the time. And I'm supposed to do like 5 of these today. We're going to do the one. I don't probably get this up next week. I don't know. But anyway, finally on the docket from Appalachian Sun Brewery in Elizabethton, not to be confused with the Appalachian Brewery, or I guess it's Appalachian Mountain Brewery in Boone. This is pretty much, you got to go to their place to get it. And then the other place, there's another one in Boone, Booneshine. They have good beer too, been there. So this is a small brew pub in Elizabethton on a side street. I forget what the name of the street. And I saw this on the list. I finally remembered to bring my growler. And it said, and I took a picture of this one right here, the double IPA. I did find it in Untapped, which I'll check in afterwards because it's the phone. And I was talking to the brewer, and whose name I always forget. And I asked if it was 100 IBUs. And he said, well, it's just his best guess. He said, I put too much hops in. And he started describing it. I went, wait a minute. I'm like, didn't you do that last year? He said, yeah, it's the same batch. So I tried some. And so I kind of sort of know what this, but I don't know how well this transported. Now, this was in a cooler with ice packs and all the other stuff. And it was in the refrigerator, and now it's here. Now, I know the growlers don't keep too well, so I don't think I'm drinking this whole thing tonight, especially not at 8.4%. And this is 32 ounces, but well, we'll see. So I like to say the night is young, but no, it isn't. So here's the particulars. 100 IBUs and 8.4 ABV. This was $18 because it's $6 for every 10 ounces, and they put 30 ounces in it. So there you go. But this is on their chalk. But it's a very small place, and they had tacos. When we drove by on the way, because we had to go to Lowe's and a couple other places in Elizabethton, there was no food truck, or we didn't see it. So we ate. We ended up, the place we wanted to was closed. We ended up at a German Freiburg's down in Johnson City. And then we came back, there was a taco truck. So, and it was crowded. So I just kind of snuck in the back door, got my stuff, and left. We had to get home. So no further ado, hopefully. Now, ooh, it still has that carameliness. So while he was doing this for me, he blew the keg, thinking it was his last one, but it turns out he had one more. So it's literally the last keg. What I noticed about this was very foamy coming out, so that was the other thing, is I didn't know how well it would transport. Because I've had this kind of thing at Damascus Brewery too, where they pour it in the can, it's great, and then when I pour it, it's as flat as can be. I did have that their monster one. That was the anyway. I let that one warm up a bit. This one's not been sitting out long enough. But here's what I've noticed about this, and I'm still picking up those notes. It has the aroma of a barley wine. Now, it's not made to be a barley wine. It's a double IPA. But now, when I had this sometime last year, I don't remember exactly when, it was very grassy. It's almost like you were chewing on the hops. But now, see, and it definitely has to warm up. The malts are far more present on the nose, even cold. And the alcohol is present, so I wonder if it's aged to a little bit more. Now, what I wish is, I wish they had a way of bottling that not cold. I didn't even think about it, but if he does something like this, maybe that's what I'll do. Maybe I'll I'll sanitize some of my own bottles, go down and cap them. You know, I have 12-ounce bottles, so we'd have to figure out a price. That's fine, but take it off without it chilled. So I don't know how they chill stuff. I mean, he brought one in, it was on draft, and I think it chilled it. But it is still a little grassy. So that second keg Tastes a little different. So that first one probably had some stuff settle out. The second one probably was fresh. And it's probably been sitting on that line for a while because that old kind of grassiness is still there. It's not as overpowering, and the alcohol feels higher. So basically, it tastes like a fresh barley wine. One of probably my fourth or fifth favorite beer that Stone used to make was Old Guardian, and someone who made Bigfoot. Let's see, it was Sierra Nevada. Those were two different barley wines, and so depending on the brewery, some breweries. So Old Guardian is a good enough barley wine to have right away, but it will cellar for a bit, and it gets more and more malty. And the hops are pretty much after 2 years are pretty much gone from what I remember. It's been years since I've had it, but every year I used to buy like 3 or 4. And before we moved, I went through all my old inventory because I had no idea where we were going to end up. I didn't know it was not going to survive in storage. It probably wasn't going to survive moving. So go find all my old videos from 3 years ago. But man. And I'm trying to remember, Bigfoot was like huge, and then it came down. And then the 120-minute IPA from Dogfish Head, the old version, not the newer one. I think it's 16.5 now, although they say that's the minimum. But the old one, I used to only could buy it in Kentucky, and you were limited to 2 bottles, and it literally, they'd be out of it in minutes because we'd be standing around. Those sell are much better than the newer ones. And that one, after about 3 years, is more like a barley wine. It stays on IPA-ish beer pretty long. But, so this one to me, that's why I wish so I'm saying, granted, since it was a mistake, you probably didn't have good notes, you probably couldn't repeat this. Plus, it's taken me a year to get rid of it. So that's not a good sign. But if he ever was to do a barley wine type thing, I think that would be pretty cool. And that's then the thing I need to get a hold of him and see if there's any way I can, when he's making stuff, if anything is going to cellar, get my own bottles. But I don't know how he carbonates. So I don't know if he does artificial. Oh my goodness. Now, you're probably going, hey, you've been jammering on for 7 minutes. How about a rating? It's because the beer is still opening. Why I keep swirling it is the beer is still opening. It's still cold. It does finish grassy. Does it say what hops? No, there was one of them that he had. I think it was Amarillo and something else. I would love to know the hop bill on this thing. But the malts, man, they want to say hello. They're like right there and then they're instantly gone. That's much better. Much better with some foam on it. And sometimes in the barley wines, I notice the colorings change. The 120 gets, is it lighter or darker? I think it's darker. So there's a harshness in one of the hops that almost gives it a slight funkiness that I don't know if I like or not. It's there, it's unexpected. And I want to believe it's from the hops and not from something else. It doesn't show any signs of infection or anything like that. But for a mistake-ish beer, double IPA, hints of barley wine, because the thing is because I feel if this could be cellared properly in a year or two, it may even be better. Because it like I said, it has that overly hoppy, early barley wine aroma and feel to it. If that funkiness could die down some, that's again, it depends. If it's from the hops, it may not. And it is, it is foamy. I think this could, or the recipe itself could be a good base for a good barley wine. Is what I'm getting at. And I haven't had barley wines in years, and I do miss them. And good stouts too. So Stone, when are you gonna make Old Guardian again? I know you brought out your double recently, and I'm trying to find it. I haven't found it anywhere. The place in Boone, it said it came up on their computer, but they don't have it yet. So I don't know when they're supposed to get it because I was there last week and they didn't know. So anyway, this to me is a 4 out of 5. And it has that, because of its, my question is and how much of it was a mistake, how much of it was an accident, and how much of it can be repeated and get that other point. You know, this is essentially my understanding how not Stone, but Dogfish had started doing their big IPAs, their 60-minute, their 90-minute, their 120. They were crazy ideas. They did stuff. And I think, I don't know if they still do, but back in the day with the 120, and I think even because the idea was a continuous hop, you don't just throw it all in there, but they had hop leaves coming out everywhere. And they had originally had a table thing that was a game, a football game, that would vibrate. And I actually did a few beers years ago when I was still on the stovetop, where I was basically took the pellets and every couple minutes I'm throwing like 2 in. And I took a base IPA recipe I had, and I did that with my hops instead of throwing them all in. And it does an incredible thing with the hop profile. You don't tend to get as bitter, but you get this layered approach almost, because of the boiling. Some hops are going to be boiled and all the aroma's gone, and some hops will be boiled a little bit and they'll have hints of aroma, and some hops will be, and so you get these layers. It's really, really interesting. I need to do it again. So anyway, 4 out of 5 in my book, but you've got to really like hoppy IPAs. This is, they call it, this is also one he's renamed 4 or 5 times. So right now it's the Deer Pen Hop Hammer. To me, this is a 4 out of 5. I would love to see this thing refined and maybe a couple of variants. It almost feels like a good double IPA base that can have some variants, maybe bigger malt bills on some, slower, different hop variants, maybe more certain hops, maybe something like Warrior, something to really boost the bitterness, but then lower something else. And who knows, maybe a Citra variant where you get more citrus, because this is pretty much grass and pine. But you could do some other stuff, Chinook, Cascade, that's an overly done hop. But, you know, there's a lot of things, variants you could experiment. I'd like to see it happen, but, you know, who knows? Again, like I said, if it's taken this long to go through all of it, it may not sell well enough to justify. So, small place. But anyway, if you're ever in Elizabethton, look up the Appalachian Sun Brewery. This is their logo. That's the other thing I didn't do. I'll have to remember this is near the end. And, you know, sometimes they have food trucks, sometimes they don't. It's a great place, a good crowd there today. You know, I support local businesses as much as I can. And thank you very much for stopping by. Thanks for leaving a like and a comment. And thanks for putting up with me for 12 minutes as I babble on. And yes, at some point I got to make a road trip to Louisiana. I don't know when. But I also need to go to Fort Ritchie. There's a lot of happening stuff. There's a new brew pub that's open. Got to go there too. Relive my childhood. All right, thank you very much, and we'll see you. Goodbye.